Have you ever stopped and wondered why the only pictures you ever see coming out of the Israeli Hamas war is destroyed buildings in Gaza with children sitting in the rubble? Guys, do not be fooled. It's all on purpose, and it's rotten deception to its very core. Do not believe the terrorist of Gaza, or the 101 news networks that are all lining up to try their level best to prop the very terrorist up. The facts tell a completely different story than what you're hearing on the media. It's a story of Arab brutality against Israel and Israel's unwavering moral commitment to the high ground. Whether you believe me or not, I want you to stay tuned for the facts. I'm Joshua, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome back to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Talking about propaganda, guys, you have yet again been duped and lied to, and that's what I'm here today to straighten up. This is outrageous. Okay, we've been at a war more than a year, sitting here in Israel right now, with Gaza, with the Arab neighboring countries around Israel. We've seen it. It's all out. But what I want you to do is we're going to do something. We're going to do a little test here. We're going to dive in to see what the global media is telling you. Maybe they're telling it to you in words, or maybe today we're actually looking at what are they telling you by pictures, images. How are they getting their messaging across? Because you cannot just sit there. Very few can just sit there. Some do, and try to make an actual terrorist look good. But what they've done is they've duped you into thinking that there are actually not so many bad terrorists out there, that Israel's actually fighting a war against the women and the children and the wounded poor people of Gaza, or that of southern Lebanon. This is what's actually being conveyed on the international media. How can I prove that to you? Well, just type in Israel-Hamas war, for example, and you find a picture of a terrorist with a weapon fighting Israel. You won't find it. This is their subtle way of telling you and convincing you that Israel is actually the problem, and Israel's war is none other than against helpless women and children. Now that is a lie, and once again, they're duping the world into an anti-Israel narrative, and more than that, it's just pure propaganda. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what you're looking at. Let's pull up some pictures. Producer, grab some pictures, type in Israel-Hamas war. We're gonna go through a list of pictures here. Okay, now you're seeing them here. What are we seeing? We're seeing utter destruction. We're seeing bombed out Arab buildings, right? We're just scrolling through what is there, 180 of these. It's ridiculous. You go news network after news network after news network, all the news networks combined. This is just a Google, just look at it full. What are we seeing? We're going to talk about the propaganda of all this in just a second, but let's just look at what we see. We see utter destruction. We see bombed out Arab buildings. More than that, we see Gazan Arab families, right? Walking through the rubble, right? Highlighting, first and foremost, children. Secondly, women. Third, wounded. Where are the men? Where are the men? Where are the thousands of terrorists armed to the hilt by the Arab regimes around the world, namely Iran, that sent hundreds of millions of dollars of equipment and military equipment into Gaza? Where is all that? You never see a piece of it in the international media. All right, they're highlighting things that aren't really true here. This is called propaganda. They have an idea of what they want you to see, and they're showing you that. What else do we see? We see a lot of fire. We see boom, bombs going off, a lot of smoke. We see IDF soldiers in full gear, right? Decked out with the best weaponry possible. They're highlighting this for a purpose. Israel, the big and strong, right? That's what they want you to understand, and this plays into their narrative. Is Israel big and strong? Yes, they are. Great. I love that fact. But they're highlighting it for a purpose that's not positive. You just have to remember that this is all on purpose. There's an agenda. There's an agenda behind the constant stream of imagery hitting the world stage, and it's very anti-Israel. Now, let's go into what maybe you missed by looking over this big collage of imagery that the world has produced over the last year. Let's take a dive in. Again, we've talked about this. Where are the fighting men? You don't find a picture of them. If they are, they're wounded or holding a child. It doesn't exist, the picture of the fighting Hamas terrorist that actually rules Gaza. And remember, if these fighting men of Hamas Gaza would give up their arms and send the hostages back home that they brutally took, and of course you remember what happened on October 7th, and how they massacred Jews, if they would recant, pull back, give back hostages, lay down their weapons, that would be the right thing to do. This war would be over like that. So remember, that's not being published on the mainstream media. The men are not even a part of this war from the imagery that you're seeing put out. And again, who's responsible for this? Not Hamas. Who's responsible? The people that are putting the content out. We're talking about hundreds of news agencies across the world that are really actually portraying what's going on in Hamas' favor. It's a favor to them to get on this bandwagon and do this. Okay, here's a big question for you. So did these women and children that are promoted out on these massive news networks as the forefront of all the aggression from Israel, how did they, if you go with that narrative, how did these women and children terrorize 9 million Israelis for an entire year, shooting 26,000 rockets, missiles, and drones into the nation of Israel? Okay, you know that did not happen. The women and children did not do that. The men that are hiding behind them, that have the world media coverage at their backs, are promoting a lie, and it's just not true. Guys, you have to understand the truth, especially seeing the fact that these terrorists have modern military equipment, and they're using it against Israel. They're shooting big-time rockets. They're using all kinds of weaponry that's absolutely modern. That's how they have actually had massive impact on the nation of Israel, which has been seen. They are not little, tribal clans that don't have any kind of infrastructure. They are tribal clans, but they have infrastructure, and they're fighting Israel with it with every ounce of energy that they possibly have. And don't be fooled by the disguise that the world media is covering them with. Hey guys, we'll be right back. But first, I've got a question for you. Did you know that you can diversify your investments while supporting Israel? Israel is under attack by its enemies, and other nations are attempting to weaken her. So let me share with you a significant way you can strengthen Israel through investing. My family and I have been clients of the licensed investment firm Wise Money Israel for years. They are both friends and financial sponsors, and they manage Israeli stock and bond accounts for people around the world. You not only bless Israel by investing here, but you can make a profit along the way. As Israel battles to hold on to their land, you support her by backing successful companies that power the economy and sustain the Jewish people. Wise Money Israel's professionals wisely invest your funds in the local market. Did you know that the Israeli economy is one of the most resilient and innovative in the world? You can help at this critical time to restore Israel to the blessing God promised her. God promised that those who bless Israel will also be blessed. Be a part of what He is doing in our days to make Israel prosperous and a praise in the earth. Align your finances with your faith, diversify your investments and currency, and partner with a firm of Israelis who share your values. For more information, see the description below. Don't bury your treasure, invest in Israel. Visit wisemoneyisrael.com/theisraelguys and sign up for a free consultation today. That's wisemoneyisrael.com/theisraelguys. All right, we must be clear about this. Israel is fighting terrorism. They're not fighting the women and children that it looks like, if you just go with the media's version of the story, it looks like if you type in Israel-Hamas war, only pictures of Gaza show up. And it's all about the women and children and the wounded. So to be clear and to set the record straight, Israel's not fighting them. Israel is fighting an embedded group of terrorists that are terrorizing not only the 9 million Israeli citizens, they're also terrorizing their neighbors, all the cities around them, all of Gaza, anyone that's not pro-Hamas and pro-terror is being terrorized by these absolute brutal terrorists. That has to be recognized. And who is Israel at war with? Not with the peaceful people that don't support this war. They are fighting and having to go inside and pull out, like surgically, these terrorists, embedded groups of Hamas terrorists within civilian places. That's the reason they're there in civilian areas, is because they can hide among them. That's their whole strategy. Israel's going inside, and that's their war, is to eliminate the threat of terrorism, not only for Israel, but for the globe. These terrorists have struck all over the world. Israel eliminating these will only be a blessing to the world. They must be strong in their war against terrorism. I want you just to think for a moment about what the world would look like. Not only what the world would look like, think about what Israel would look like. On a great scale, the whole world, of course, would be affected by this. But what if Israel was not strong? What if Israel didn't have the force to push back after October 7th? What if that continued? What if the will of these terrorist organizations that hold massive support within the local Muslim Arab towns around Israel and within Israel, speaking of Gaza and Judea and Samaria, what if they had their way and there's the support that they had for the October 7th style massacre of this Jewish state? What if that continued? What if Israel was not strong enough to push back and hold them back? I would venture to say there would no longer be a Jewish state. I believe that the world putting a disguise over the truth of what's actually going on here is not only morally incorrect, it's a pity and a shame that Western countries are not backing Israel with the best of their support and backing. They're making it look like that there's some sort of moral equivalence between Israel and these brutal terrorists. This is unacceptable, and that's what I'm here to speak to you about today. This has to stop. And no longer when you type in Israel-Hamas war will you see only propaganda. That has to stop. And lastly, a few thoughts on, the fact that everyone in the world talks about losses and how terrible it is, the losses of the terrorists and those that support terrorism, and God forbid that there was innocent civilians killed in any of these battles. It's terrible, but that's the only thing the world ever gives attention to. What they never give attention to, and again, on this whole topic of Israel being recognized and supported, it doesn't exist. Have you ever heard about Israel's challenges? How about some pictures of the 9 million Israelis that have been running out of bomb shelters for the last year? The trauma on the families, the family members that were killed. How come that's never portrayed? You don't see it anymore. The media has nothing to say about Israeli suffering and Israeli hardship and the challenges that are facing Israel as a country, as Israeli families. It doesn't exist. They're only focused on propaganda and siding against Israel, inciting the world against Israel in favor of these Arab terrorists. I want to take a minute to recognize the hardship and the loss that Israel has gone through, since no one else seems to care. I care a lot, and I hope you do as well. Israel has lost, since the beginning of the war, 2,157 Israelis. They've lost their lives due to this war, due to terrorism, all since just over a year now. That's incredibly hard to deal with. 4,576 have been wounded in the fighting, in the war. I don't even know how to. These are people. I've been to the funerals. We've sat at the shivas where you sit and mourn the loss of an Israeli. These are hard points that the world never even begins to recognize the trauma and the pain that Israel's going through. It's said that there's more than 70,000 Israeli soldiers now, and disabled Israeli soldiers going through therapy. Of course, this is not only from October 7th, but this is historically, Israel's fought a lot of wars. Israel has a large number of disabled veterans, those soldiers that have fought that are now getting care in Israel. That's extremely high. Israel has been through war and the hell that is surrounding those wars, and Israel does not want to stay in that place. And if it was for Israel, there would be no war to start with. Again, you have to remember that terrorism is evil, and it cannot be allowed just to cover the earth. It cannot be allowed to just grow and thrive and fester. And Israel is at the forefront of stopping that horrible thing that terrorism is. It has to stop, and Israel's at the forefront of stopping it. We must support Israel to do that. And I want you to, as we close here, I want you to remember something. Israel, the Jewish people, there's literally only 15.8 million Jewish people on the entire world. Not only do I think they have a special blessing and God's chosen them for a specific purpose on the earth, and I bless them to walk in that purpose, and I want to be a part of seeing them fulfill their mission and role in the world. Many people don't want to do that, and if you don't believe in the Bible and you don't believe in the Jewish people's role in the world, whatever. Just remember that there are a very small minority of people. You should remember that, and as well remember that when you look at Israel as the aggressor, as would be portrayed in the media, the aggressor, the one with all the big stuff, all the big guns, all the big equipment. Remember that there's just 7 million Jews in Israel. Surrounded by, let me tell you, surrounded by an Arab population of more than 400 million. 22 Arab states, 57 Muslim countries, all surrounding the one and only Jewish state that most of the world aligns with these 400 million, 22 Arab states and 57 Muslim countries, with a goal, of course, not all of these hate, but I'd say a good majority. They would like to see Israel wiped off the map. The one and only Jewish state that stands as a beacon of hope and light to a small minority in the world, the Jewish people. They would like to see it eradicated, erased from the earth. Well, I, for one, will not stand silently by as the world and all the media, news networks across the planet demonize and create propaganda against this small minority of Jewish people. I'll stand with them, and you'll find out Israel will succeed. Israel will be strong. They've been here. They're going to continue to be here. And the rest of the world just better get used to it. Guys, I believe that's all for now. I hope you understand the problem that we're facing in the world. Get on the right side of it. We talk about social media. You guys got to help us. You got to help us get out there. You know, if you look at TikTok, there's one pro-Israel view to over 50 pro-Hamas views. That's unacceptable. We've got to change the narrative. And this is the reason. We're one against millions. We've got to change that around. Guys, as always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what's actually happening here in Israel's heartland. I'm Joshua, and we'll be back.